Welcome back to Xbox Corner, my name's Luke, and I'm back once again to bring you the first Game Pass update of the new year, and hopefully Microsoft is starting as they mean to go on, as we've got a solid batch of games for you this week, and several other great titles arriving in the upcoming months. Now if you've yet to check out our Leaving Game Pass video this week, then you'll find a link to it down in the description box below. But for now, hit that like button, subscribe to keep up to date with our latest deals, reviews, Game Pass and graphical comparisons, and let's get into it. So first up, we've got a quick announcement about the Gears of War Game of the Year edition, which was sneakily added to Game Pass a couple of days ago. Now the standard edition of the game has actually been on Game Pass for a while, but the Game of the Year edition brings with it a couple of random cosmetic items as well as the Hidebusters DLC, a standalone campaign expansion which sees Lani, Keegan and Mac from the game's escape mode embarking on a suicide mission to destroy a swarm hive on the volcanic Galangi Islands. If you're a fan of Gears of War but not enough of a fan to have forked out a few quid for this DLC, then here's a prime opportunity to play it. So our first new addition to Game Pass is going to be Gorogoa, an incredibly unique puzzle experience which sees you navigating through hundreds of beautifully illustrated panels, interacting with them and combining them in different ways in order to solve puzzles. Now this was actually one of the first games that I played on the Nintendo Switch, and while that console's touchscreen controls were ideal, gameplay in Gorogoa mainly involves dragging and dropping panels to one of 4 corners, so using an actual controller to do this shouldn't prove too arduous. Now I'm not going to get into any specific puzzle mechanics to avoid obvious spoilers, but I actually really enjoyed Gorogoa. It's a relatively short game, taking around 2 hours to complete, but the puzzle elements are really well thought out, and I really liked the creative ways in which the artwork were implemented into them. Our next game is The Pedestrian, our first day 1 release of the month, and this one is a 2.5D side-scrolling puzzle platformer, where the objective is to move your little stick man through a series of public signs, rearranging them and connecting them up in order to progress through each of the game's environments. Now I played about an hour of this one, and so far I've been really enjoying it. The puzzle mechanics themselves are pretty simple, requiring you to collect keys, activate switches and restore power to various objects, but where the real challenge comes in with this one is working out how to actually connect up your signs, and a lot of the puzzle solving actually comes from being able to visualise a route through them and forward plan with this one. It's definitely one of the most unique puzzle games that I've played though. It has some great visuals, enjoyable and surprisingly challenging puzzle mechanics, and overall it's just a pretty interesting game. Next up we have a game called Olija, and this one's a story-driven action-adventure game about a man called Faraday who, after being shipwrecked, washes up on the mysterious and deadly islands of Terrafage. There he finds a legendary harpoon which grants him incredible powers, and meets an enchanting young woman known as Olija, and Faraday embarks upon a quest to find his missing crewmates, escape the hostile country and eventually return to the safety of his homeland. Now I've not actually played Olija, but it appears to have some fun looking combat which sees you tossing your spear around and teleporting about the place, a bunch of puzzles to solve, bosses to fight and a dark and dangerous world to explore, all presented in a wonderful pixel art style. From what I hear, it's also a relatively short game, clocking in at around 4 or 5 hours, so it should be an easy enough title to fit in around the rest of this month's games if you are thinking of giving this one a go. So the next game on our list is one of those for all of you looking for a bit of co-op action. EMBR is a frantic multiplayer firefighting game where you and up to 3 other people can team up online to tackle fires and rescue civilians, but there's a bit of a twist with this one, as levels are filled with traps and hazards, and if doing just your day job ain't enough to pay the bills, you can always snag some of the wealthy owner's belongings or cash as you extinguish the flames on the $1 million mansions. Now there are a ton of different tools, upgrades, vehicles and outfits to unlock with the game, which grant a wide range of skills and abilities, and there are also weekly challenges and plenty of achievements to hunt down. And I'd say that if you've played and enjoyed other chaotic multiplayer games like the recently released Surgeon Simulator 2, then I'm sure you'll have a blast playing this one. So one of the big ones in this week's Game Pass lineup is going to be the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, a compilation of the first 3 Mass Effect games which follow Commander Shepard and crew as they attempt to save not only humanity but the entire galaxy from a race of ancient machines known as the Reapers, who once every 50,000 years cause a galactic scale mass extinction event. Now this game series is critically acclaimed for a reason. Its gameplay features an excellent blend of third-person shooting and RPG elements, and its iconic player-driven narrative sees every decision that you make having an impact on future events, with your choices actually following you across all 3 titles. So far as sci-fi games go though, Mass Effect sits among the best. The games have been remastered and optimised in 4K Ultra HD, had a bunch of different gameplay improvements, and included with the base games are over 40 DLC packs, which all in all adds up to well over 100 hours worth of gameplay with this one. From one great sci-fi game to another then, next up we have The Outer Wilds, an action-adventure game which sees you exploring an ever-changing solar system trapped within an endless time loop which resets every 22 minutes after the system's sun goes supernova. Now this is one that I've heard a lot about but never actually played, but from what I can gather, the objective in the game is to travel between a handful of different planets seeking answers to why the time loop keeps occurring. During each loop though, you'll only have time to explore a couple of different areas before the star goes boom, but the data that you obtain carries over into subsequent runs, and as time goes on, events and locations change, meaning that certain areas and puzzles are only accessible at certain times, and I thought this was a really cool and unique concept for a game. This is also one that I myself will definitely be freeing up a bit of time to play, and if you didn't play it when it was previously on Game Pass, then I highly recommend that you do so too. So another Day 1 Game Pass release coming this week is Spelunky 2, sequel to the cult classic roguelike, which once again has you delving into procedurally generated tombs searching for treasure, though this time round you'll actually be doing it on the moon. Now this second game doesn't stray too far from the original formula. The world is as deadly as ever with enemies and traps at every turn, meaning it's still hard as nails, but Spelunky 2 builds on everything which made the first game great, expanding the world to include new enemies, traps and items, adding an extra dimension allowing players to access a second layer behind the normal playfield, and it also includes new shops, NPCs and mounts to find and ride. Now I put quite a few hours into the first tile, and I can tell you now that it's not one for those with a lack of patience or a sensitive rage trigger, but if you've been looking for a roguelike which pulls no punches and is addictive as hell, then just based on my experience with the first game, I'd say Spelunky 2 definitely fits the bill. Our final game coming this week is actually a game preview of The Anacrusis, a cooperative first-person shooter set aboard a massive starship where players must work together to defeat hordes of hostile aliens, unlocking new perks and weapons as they go and opening up new ways to play. Now you can kind of think of this game as a sci-fi version of Left 4 Dead. You have 4 survivors to choose from, but unlike its Z-filled counterpart, characters are not class-based, and instead you get to build your own class to be synergised with other players through unlocking perks using something called the Matter Compiler. Now as to whether this one is going to be as successful or unsuccessful as the recently released Back 4 Blood remains to be seen, but it does offer an alternative option if you're done with all that zombie hunting lark, and being an early access game, there's still plenty of room for improvement with this one. And so that just about does it for this week's roundup of Game Pass offerings. Are you going to be puzzling your way through this next week, seeking riches in a rage-fueled roguelike, or perhaps saving the universe all over again? Let us know down in the comments section below. For now though, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to stay up to date with all our latest deals, reviews, Game Pass and graphical comparison videos, and we'll see you all in the next video. Thanks everyone, take care.